Hola amigos, this is your local comic book mustachio coming to you with some of the new releases that were gracing our Spinnerex this week. As most of you know, New Comic Book Day is on Wednesdays. I unfortunately ran into a bit of car trouble, so I wasn't able to make it to my local comic shop until Sunday. I really wanted to do a show. Not only were there a lot of really good releases this week, but there was one of the best single issues that I have ever read that came out this week. So I headed over to my local comic shop, Fourth World Comics and Toys in Smithtown, Long Island, to see what came out this week. Let's head over there and then we'll come back and report on some of the books. Now that we're back from the comic shop, let's take a look at what they had for me and my poll list this week. Like I said before, this week had one of the best single issues I have read in a very long time come out. I'm going to save the best for last. I'm going to make a clip show of some of the images, and we'll take a close look at that. But in the meantime, let's take a brief look at some of the books that I got. Starting with some Image series. A new Image #1 came out this week from Ray Fawkes. He has been doing a lot of stuff for DC, Justice League Dark, a few other things. My cat's about to walk right in front of the camera. If you hear her meow, please ignore it. If you see a tail swipe back and forth, she is adorable. I don't want to push her out of the way. So, from Ray Fawkes, a horror writer currently working with DC, this is the first Image book or creator-owned project I have read from him, is Intersect #1. He wrote, drew, colored, did pretty much everything except for the lettering, I think, on this issue. If you're looking for a plot, I'm not going to give it to you. I really don't know what happened in this book. I do know that it left me with a really scared, terrified feeling. I do know that people in this world can intersect with one another. They can live within the same body at the same time. The main characters, I think at least they're the main characters, are being chased by some dog-like thing. It snows blood. The art is really weird. It is really surreal. It is really trippy. If you like films by David Lynch or Alejandro Jodorowsky, this is your bag if you're into the weird. Definitely cool stuff. Hopefully we'll get some more concrete kind of feel for what the plot's actually about. It was interesting enough for me to go for a #2. Definitely suggest this. This would have been my pick of the week if it was not for the issue that I'm going to come to at the end. Next up from Image Comics, we have Deadly Class #8 from writer Rick Remender and artist Wes Craig. I wish I could hang out with Rick Remender. He's really into punk rock. I'm really into punk rock. He seems like he partied a lot in his youth and went through a lot of weird experimental phases. This book is really, really personal, I feel. It's kind of like if the X-Men went to a school instead of for mutants for assassins and you were a misfit and you got picked. The coloring is amazing. We get to see some of the main characters' life unfold. Each life event is done with a different color palette. I wish I remembered the name of the color so I can give some credit here because it's really cool. Each one kind of changes with the time in which the events unfolded in our main character's life. This is a really cool book if you're into Image series and you want to read something really personal from a very big writer right now. Rick Remender's doing a lot of work with Marvel, including their big crossover that's happening that I'm not reading, Axis, as I like to say, Axis Bold as Love. This is a book to check out. I'm loving this Image series. Stick with it. The first trade with the first 6 issues is only $9.99, as are all Image first trades. Check it out. Up next, I'm going to lump these 2 books into one because they're basically the same story. New Avengers and Avengers. Avengers #38 and New Avengers #26. Time runs out. We keep hearing that. Jonathan Hickman is a master of long-term storytelling. His long-term story arcs always pay off. You have to stick with them. They go on for a very long time. If you are a new reader, do not jump on anything Jonathan Hickman in the middle of a story arc. You will have no idea what's going on. The Avengers roster is always growing. Let me see if I can open up to this first page here where he always gives these little diagram things. That's always in. That's how many characters we are dealing with at the moment in Avengers. The art is great. As I said, the long-term storytelling of Jonathan Hickman is not for the weak. You have to stick with it. It's hard to jump into, but it always has a payoff. I loved his Fantastic Four run. Infinity was great. It continues to be great in Avengers and New Avengers. I got this really cool Francavilla variant with that I am Groot, even though Groot has nothing to do with this issue for New Avengers. This next book really saddens me because it's coming to an end. Fantastic Four are some of my favorite characters. I am a very tall, skinny, lanky man. I have a beautiful wife. I have a really cool womanizing surfer dude best friend, and my other best friend looks like a little rock and is always grumpy and talks with a really weird generic Long Island accent. I empathize and feel for the Fantastic Four. Back in blue. But unfortunately, James Robinson and Leonard Kirk's story will be coming to an end soon with the cancellation of Fantastic Four. And I think it's called Fantastic Forever, which is beginning, I think, in February. Again, slow start to the series. The issues do pick up. It is getting better. This is an action-packed issue. We get to see Ben Grimm sneak out of a prison with the Mole Man. We get to see Camp Hammond and the Future Foundation in this really cool opening panel grid. We get to see the return of the FF from the Matt Fraction Mike Allred run, including Scott Lang in his FF costume. Darla Deering is back. She-Hulk is back. Jennifer Walters and Medusa. Definitely, if you're a Fantastic Four fan, James Robinson is doing a great job. Starman was one of my favorite series of all time. If you have never read Starman by writer James Robinson and artist Tony Harris, do yourself a favor, pick up that book. It is beautiful. I don't know if the hardcovers are hard to come by. I don't know if they're still in print. I don't know if they make trade paperbacks anymore, but it's a wonderful run. James Robinson really has a handle on all of these characters. It's kind of his thing with the older characters. So, pick up Fantastic Four. It will be ending soon, unfortunately. And from what I've heard, all these rumors of this upcoming film, it's going to be a train wreck. So enjoy what we have of the Fantastic Four while we have it, because it is good and they are awesome. Like I said, I hadn't been able to get to the comic shop until Sunday, even though new comics came out on Wednesday. In the meantime, I had been reading and finished Marvel Comics, The Untold Story by Sean Howe. This is a really cool, unbiased biography on the formation of the Marvel Comics company. If you are at all interested in business, publishing, history, or comic books, I highly suggest checking out Marvel Comics, The Untold Story. This is really fun. I know there is a really cool audiobook that I've heard of. It is available on Audible, iTunes, all that cool stuff. But the moment that I have been waiting for, I unfortunately got a variant cover. They had none left at my comic shop except for this. But this is one of the best single issues of a comic book I have ever read. I have this big grin on my face, my mustache. You see it? I drank the Kool-Aid that Grant Morrison poured out for this week. Multiversity, Pax Americana. Bask in the glory. Drink the Kool-Aid. Love, Grant Morrison. Let's take a look at Multiversity Pax Americana by Grant Morrison and artist Frank Whiteley. The dynamic duo that brought us All-Star Superman, my favorite graphic novel of all time, now.
For the past few months, Grant Morrison has taken readers on a journey throughout the DC multiverse. And with this fourth one-shot issue, he reunites with All-Star Superman and Batman and Robin collaborator Frank Whiteley to bring us Multiversity, Pax Americana. Set on Earth 4, the book features characters from the DC-acquired Charlton comics, such as Blue Beetle, The Question, Captain Atom, and the Peacemaker. living in a world where the public eye seems to have turned against capes and tights as heightened tension on a global scale rises, with international terrorism seemingly causing the world to count down to doomsday, to an inevitable extermination. Tension rises even further as the peacekeeper assassinates the US president on the first page. And the quote-unquote heroes unravel the mystery of why he would do so. Let's get the big parallel out of the way first. When Alan Moore originally pitched The Watchmen, he wanted to use the DC-acquired Charlton characters, the same characters used here in Pax Americana. Morrison himself described this issue as if Moore and Gibbons had pitched The Watchmen today. Morrison has publicly stated opinions on The Watchmen. The realism and tone has hurt comics and they've never recovered. The realistic mirror it put up against the superhero genre took a lot of the fun and escapism that the medium is meant to inspire and thrown all of those ideas out the window, adapting a gritty and realistic tone instead. Is this an homage to The Watchmen? Is Grant actually talking to Alan Moore with this issue? Is he rubbing the use of the Charlton characters in Moore's face? Moore has been known to have harassed Grant Morrison when he was a young man taking over the Miracle Man series from the writer. Whether cynical, tribute, or aggressive, this parallel is fascinating, even down to the use of an 8-panel grid style and non-sequential storytelling techniques. Now, let's dig deeper as we sip that sweet Kool-Aid and rejoice in the cult of Grant Morrison. This issue opens and closes on a twisted mask, making the shape of both the infinity sign and a strand of DNA. The issue is then told in a nonlinear structure. Time is described and represented as an infinite cycle, beginning and ending, birth and died, starting and stopping. It always comes full circle and continues from where it once began. Not only is this far-out concept represented in the writing, but also in the artistic structure of Quitely. Non-traditional panel structures are strongly present, circling around the pages instead of flowing from the traditional left to right. Somehow, it's easily followed. It's natural and instinctive, and a bold choice that directly parallels the concept of a non-linear timeline and the concepts of beginning and ending. It flows in fearful symmetry. I could literally gush all day over this issue, and readers can dig so deep into this book. A lot of thought was put into this issue, and it shines. To me, this issue is a masterpiece, albeit an exhausting read. It makes you think. It demands a reread. And with those second and third and fourth outings on the issue, you get more and more. What a treat. This is a book we as comic book fans should rejoice in. There is not enough time in a day to go into everything that's present here. But if time really is a symmetrical circle, I'm sure we'll get back to it for time and time and time and time and time over. What a win for Morrison and Frank Quitely.
So there you have it, folks. Those are the comics that I decided to pick up for the third week of November 2014. To find a comic store near you, go to comicshoplocator.com. You can always download your comics digitally. I prefer using the Comixology app. It's available on the iOS or Android marketplaces. Thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate all the help and support. Please remember to subscribe. Comment in the sections below about what you picked up this week. I know I missed a lot of stuff. Spider-Verse is going on. Axis, Bold as Love, is also going on. I don't really know what's going on in those. I'm not too interested, but if you want to tell me, please comment below, subscribe, like, do all of those things. This is where I usually do one of my clever, witty catchphrases. I am going to let you know I am taking in suggestions. My cat is bugging me. She's right here. I am taking in suggestions. If you want to have one of my sign-offs, mustache-related puns, please put it in the comments below. Until then, this is your comic book mustache saying, the mustache and the plowman each must know his part. Adios, brochachos. See you next time.